800,000 Tak assassins died in the first 24 hours of their failed invasion of Earth. The unprecedented assault began with ruthless coordination as assassination teams struck targets across the globe. Martial law was declared worldwide as the assassins bombed power grids, sabotaged factories, and blasted cities from orbit. Admiral Aaron Hill commanded humanity's defense from a hardened bunker. He watched grimly as reports flooded in of assassins butchering civilians in the streets. These monsters had to be stopped at all costs. Hill ordered Earth's fighter forces into the fray. Human pilots fearlessly engaged the assassins' ships over besieged cities. Enhanced by tactical AI, human craft danced nimbly between enemy fire, surgically picking off Tak fighters. On the ground, soldiers in powered exoskeletons grappled with Tak shock troops. Robotic servos whined as men in armor smashed skulls and snapped spines. A lone assassin named Wazin crash-landed his crippled ship near Hill's bunker. Storming inside, he nearly succeeded in killing the admiral before being subdued by Hill's elite guard. Across Earth, the assassins' numbers rapidly dwindled under humanity's ferocious counterattack. Suddenly, the Tak fleet withdrew. Earth's cities and landscapes were littered with over 600,000 assassin corpses, grim proof of humanity's deadly defense of their homeworld. Yet as the smoke cleared, new battles erupted. Riots engulfed cities worldwide as enraged citizens demanded retribution. World leaders struggled to maintain order amidst the chaos. In an emergency hearing, Admiral Hill argued passionately for taking the war to the enemy. These assassins were merely the vanguard of a much larger threat. This was only the beginning of a struggle for humanity's very survival. As Earth reeled, Hill interrogated the captured assassin, Wazin. The depth of the looming alien menace became chillingly apparent as investigations uncovered a galaxy-spanning conspiracy. Humanity found itself propelled towards total war with a powerful unseen enemy. The stage was set for an epic clash that would determine the fate of the human species. Earth's heroes had won the first battle, but the war for the stars was just beginning. Admiral Hill scowled as he studied the latest intel reports, the harsh bunker lighting casting deep shadows across his weathered face. The interrogation of the captured assassin Wazin had yielded explosive revelations, a galaxy-spanning conspiracy orchestrated by the ruthless Paklid's Imperium. Hill clenched his fist, the gravity of the threat sinking in like a lead weight. The failed Tak attack had merely been the opening salvo in a war for humanity's very existence. Wazin's confession painted a chilling picture. The Paklids, an enigmatic race lurking in the shadows of the cosmos, had spent decades manipulating the Tak and other alien races, bending them to their will through bribery, coercion, and insidious mind control technology. The assassination attempt was but a prelude to a full-scale invasion, with the ultimate aim of enslaving Earth and subjugating humanity under the Imperium's iron heel. Hill wasted no time, ordering his best operatives to hunt down the Tak leaders who had slipped through the net during the chaos following their failed strike. Led by the relentless agent Dante Reese, covert human teams scoured the stars, tracking their quarry with dogged willpower. Their efforts soon bore fruit. In a daring midnight raid, Reese and his hand-picked squad captured the infamous Tak General Vorax, a ruthless strategist with blood on his claws. Vorax snarled and spat as human interrogators dragged him into a fortified black site, his eyes blazing with hatred. But Vorax's defiance crumbled under the onslaught of humanity's cutting-edge lie detection and memory extraction technology. The general's deepest secrets were ripped from his mind, layer by layer, until the true extent of the Paklids' insidious network stood revealed. Vorax exposed critical details about the Imperium's web of informants and saboteurs, operatives who had burrowed deep into the fabric of galactic civilization. Most critically, Vorax betrayed the location of a linchpin Tak staging base, a heavily guarded installation vital to their invasion plans. Hill seized the opportunity, dispatching Captain Lucas Steele and his battle-hardened special forces to deliver a crippling blow to the enemy. Steele's elite commandos struck like lightning, catching the assassins off guard. In a whirlwind of blaster fire and brutally efficient close-quarters combat, the human operatives carved a path of destruction through the Tak base. Powered exoskeletons clashed with assassin warframes in titanic duels, while withering volleys of plasma fire lit the night like the wrath of an angry god. When the smoke cleared, the Tak installation lay in ruins, human soldiers standing tall amidst seas of shattered alien bodies. But even as Earth's forces savored this critical victory, the Pakleds unleashed a devastating counterstrike. On the distant colony of Novaria, warning klaxons blared as swarms of nightmarish Kraghu warriors descended from the skies, their insectoid maws dripping with venom. These horrifying creatures, their minds enslaved by Pakled's technology, rampaged through human settlements with reckless abandon, unleashing virulent bioweapons that melted flesh and bone. Novaria's defenses reeled under the Kraghu onslaught, colonial militia and civilian volunteers fighting desperately to hold back the chitinous tide. Scenes of horror unfolded as Kraghu warrior forms overran makeshift barricades, scythe-like limbs reaping a terrible toll on the planet's inhabitants. The fall of Novaria sent shockwaves rippling through Earth's forces, the brutality of the Kraghu assault sending a clear message about the Pakleds' merciless intentions. As grim reports poured in of human casualties and unimaginable atrocities, Admiral Hill knew that securing Earth's crumbling alliances had become more critical than ever. To spearhead this vital diplomatic effort, Hill turned to his most skilled negotiator, Ambassador Alara Voss. Voss was dispatched on a desperate mission to the Galactic Council, an assembly of the galaxy's most influential races. Her task, to expose the Pakleds' malevolent machinations and forge a united front against the looming invasion. But the Pakleds moved to silence Voss before she could ever reach the council chambers. In a heart-stopping brush with death, the ambassador narrowly escaped an assassination attempt by a Pakled's mind-controlled operative, the would-be killer's dead eyes reflecting the depths of the Imperium's inhumanity. Undeterred by this harrowing ordeal, Voss pressed on, racing against time as she prepared to present humanity's case to an increasingly skeptical galaxy. All the while, Admiral Hill pushed his research teams to the brink, working feverishly to unravel the secrets of captured alien technology. As the specter of a Pakled's invasion loomed ever closer, a pall of fear and uncertainty fell across Earth and its few remaining allies. The battle lines had been drawn, and humanity now faced an implacable foe determined to grind them into dust and ashes. But even in this darkest hour, the human spirit refused to be extinguished. On the front lines and in the halls of power, men and women of unconquerable tenacity steeled themselves for the cataclysmic struggle to come. The first blows had been struck, but the war for the soul of the galaxy was only just beginning. The harsh fluorescent lights of the Galactic Council chamber cast an eerie glow on Ambassador Alara Voss's face as she concluded her impassioned plea. Her words echoed in the cavernous hall, met with stony silence from the assembled alien dignitaries. Earth stands ready to lead the fight against the Pakled's threat, Voss declared, her voice unwavering. But we cannot do it alone. We need your support, your resources, your... A thunderous bang cut her off as the Zyraxian representative slammed his tentacles against the podium. Enough of these human lies, he bellowed, multifaceted eyes glittering with barely concealed malice. We have seen the true face of Earth's aggression. The Council will not be manipulated by your warmongering. Voss's heart sank as murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. She scanned the faces of the alien representatives, searching for any sign of support, but found only hostility and suspicion. The air grew thick with tension as the council members cast their votes. The decision was swift and merciless. Sanctions against Earth, trade embargoes, the severing of vital supply lines. Voss's datapad chimed with an incoming transmission from Admiral Hill, but she ignored it, her mind blown from the magnitude of this betrayal. As she strode from the council chambers, a shadow detached itself from an alcove. Voss's hand flew to her concealed blaster, but she relaxed as she recognized the familiar features of her security chief. They're compromised, Voss hissed, her composure finally cracking. The Pakleds have gotten to them somehow. We need to warn... A plasma bolt sizzled past her ear, scorching the ornate wall behind her. Voss dropped into a crouch as her security chief returned fire, his face twisted with relentless drive. "Go!" he shouted, laying down suppressing fire against unseen assailants. "I'll hold them off." Voss sprinted down the corridor, the sounds of battle fading behind her. She tapped her wrist communicator, establishing a secure link to Earth. "Admiral Hill," she panted, "the mission is compromised. The Council has turned against us. The Pack Lead's influence runs deeper than we ever imagined." Thousands of light years away, Admiral Aaron Hill absorbed the news with a face carved from stone. He terminated the call and turned to face the vast holographic display dominating his command center. Red icons representing Pack Lead's fleet movements blinked ominously, encircling Earth's remaining allies. "Deploy the stealth satellites," Hill ordered, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere. "I want eyes on every Pack Lead ship in the galaxy." As technicians scrambled to comply, Hill's gaze fell on a battle-scarred soldier, standing at rigid attention nearby. "Captain Steele," he said, "prep your Phantom Brigade. You're going hunting." Steele snapped a crisp salute. "Yes, sir. What's the target?" Hill's eyes hardened. "Everything the Pack Lids have. Hit their staging areas, disrupt their supply lines, make them bleed for every inch they've taken from us." As Steele departed to brief his team, Hill turned back to the holographic display. The enormity of the task before him threatened to overwhelm, but he pushed the feeling aside. There would be time for doubt later. For now, there was only the next move, the next counterstrike, the desperate race to save humanity from annihilation. Across the vast emptiness of space, Pack-led ships gathered like storm clouds on the horizon. The first shots of a galactic war had been fired, and Earth stood alone against the coming darkness. Admiral Hill's weathered face twisted into a grimace as he stared at the holographic display. The red icons representing Pack-led ships seemed to multiply by the minute, choking off Earth's remaining lifelines. He turned to face the towering alien figure beside him, fighting back the instinctive revulsion that threatened to surface. "You understand what you're proposing, Vorax?" Hill's voice was low, barely audible over the hum of the command center's equipment. "If this is some ploy—" The Tok General's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "The Pack-Lids used us, Admiral, bent our minds to their will. This alliance may be distasteful, but it is necessary." Hill nodded curtly, then tapped a series of commands into his console. The holographic display shifted, zooming in on a massive Pack-Lead's dreadnought hanging in low Earth orbit like a sword of Damocles. "Our target," Hill said, gesturing at the behemoth. "Dr. Zoll's team decrypted the schematics. We have a window to cripple it, but we'll need your stealth tech to get close enough." Vorax's compound eyes glittered. "My warriors stand ready." Across the command center, Captain Lucas Steele strapped himself into the captured Tok stealth ship's pilot seat. The alien controls felt awkward under his hands, but he pushed the discomfort aside. His team of human and Tok commandos filled the cramped hold behind him, an uneasy silence hanging between former enemies. "Phantom Brigade, you are clear for launch," Hill's voice crackled over the comm. "Godspeed." The stealth ship slipped from its berth, accompanied by a dozen others. They ghosted past the Pack-Lead's perimeter defenses, active camouflage rendering them all but invisible against the starfield. As they closed on the dreadnought, alarms suddenly blared. Steele's hands danced across the controls, juking the ship wildly as Pack-Lead's fighters swarmed from concealed hangars. "They've made us!" Steele shouted. "All units, punch through their screen and get to the breach point." Plasma bolts sizzled past the viewports as the strike force scattered. Two of the stealth ships erupted in silent fireballs, torn apart by pinpoint Pack-Lead's fire. Steele gritted his teeth, pushing his vessel to its limits as they raced towards a section of the dreadnought's hull where the shielding flickered and wavered. With a bone-jarring impact, Steele's ship smashed through the weakened shields. He brought them to a skidding halt inside a cavernous hangar bay. As the boarding ramp lowered, the sounds of battle filled the air. "Go, go, go!" Steele bellowed, leading the charge. Human and Tok commandos poured from the ship, weapons blazing as they engaged the Pack-Lead's defenders. The fighting was brutal in close quarters. Steele's enhanced reflexes allowed him to dance between plasma bolts, his own weapon spitting death with unerring accuracy. Beside him, a Tok-Tok warrior scythed through Pakled's troops with wickedly curved blades, its movements a blur of lethal precision. "Weapons control is 2 levels up," Steele shouted over the din. "Push forward!" As they battled their way through the dreadnought's maze-like corridors, Steele's comm crackled to life. "Captain, this is Dr. Zoll. I've breached their systems, initiating diversionary protocols now." Suddenly, klaxons began to wail throughout the ship. Bulkheads slammed shut seemingly at random, and the lighting flickered erratically. The Pakled's defenders hesitated, clearly thrown into disarray by the apparent malfunctions. Seizing the advantage, Steele's team surged forward. They burst into the cavernous weapons control center, a forest of crackling energy conduits and pulsing machinery. At its heart stood a massive crystalline structure, tendrils of lightning arcing across its surface. "There," Steele pointed, "plant the charges and fall back." As his team scrambled to set the explosives, a fresh wave of Pakled's troops poured into the chamber. Steele's rifles sang, dropping alien after alien, but they seemed endless. "Charges set," a voice called out. 30 seconds? Steele triggered his comm. "All units fall back to extraction points. This place is about to blow." They fled through the chaotic corridors, pursued by enraged Pakled soldiers. Just as they reached their stealth ships, a titanic explosion rocked the entire dreadnought. Steele allowed himself a grim smile as they blasted free of the dying vessel. The Pakled's flagship hung limply in orbit, its main weapons array a twisted ruin. But even as Steele's team celebrated their victory, fresh Pakled's ships were already moving to take its place. In the depths of Earth's most secure bunker, Agent Kai Ling pored over intercepted transmissions. His eyes widened as he decrypted a particularly intriguing message. "Commander Vance," he called out, "I think you need to see this." Zara Vance strode over, her face a mask of controlled tension. "What is it, Ling?" "It appears we may have a Pakled's defector," Ling said, gesturing at the screen. "High-ranking by the looks of it. They're offering us critical intelligence." Vance's eyes narrowed. "It could be a trap. The Pakleds are nothing if not cunning." As they debated the merits of trusting this potential turncoat, Admiral Hill's voice rang out across the command center. "Ambassador Voss," he said, his tone grave, "I have a mission for you, one that may decide the fate of this war." Ilara Voss straightened, her eyes blazing with perseverance. "I'm listening, Admiral." "We need you to make contact with the Kreider Alliance," Hill explained. "Their resistance fighters have been battling the Pakleds for generations. If we can forge an alliance—" Voss nodded sharply. "I'll leave at once. Who's my backup?" Hill's expression tightened. "General Vorax has volunteered a detachment of his most loyal commandos." As Voss departed to prepare for her perilous journey, the weight of humanity's future hung heavy in the air. The battle for Earth had been won, but the war for the galaxy was far from finished. Admiral Hill's weathered face flickered on the holo display as Ambassador Voss settled into her quarters aboard the stealth transport. "The situation has changed, Ilara. We've uncovered something that could turn the tide." Voss leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "I'm listening." "Ancient ruins on the outer rim. Our intelligence suggests they house technology capable of striking at the heart of the Pakled's empire." Hill's voice lowered. "But we need your diplomatic skills for a different mission, one that may prove just as crucial." As Hill outlined the plan, Voss felt a mix of anticipation and dread. Negotiating with the Pakleds was a fool's errand, but if it provided cover for the strike team— "I'll do it," she said firmly. Thousands of light years away, Captain Lucas Steele crouched behind a twisted bulkhead, plasma bolts sizzling past his head. The Pakleds' ambush had caught them off guard as they approached the Thelian ruins. "Zol!" he shouted over the din of battle. "We need that force field down now." The Kreider scientist's fingers danced across his hollow interface. "Working on it. Their encryption is unlike anything I've seen." Steele popped up, his rifle spitting death at the advancing Pakled's troops. Beside him, a Tok-Tok warrior wielded twin energy blades with lethal grace, carving through the enemy's ranks. "Fall back to the ruins," Steele ordered. "We'll make our stand there." The strike team fought their way through ancient corridors, marveling at the towering structures despite the chaos. Steele's breath caught as they entered a vast chamber, its walls covered in pulsing alien script. Dr. Zoll's eyes widened. This is it! The cache must be... A deafening explosion rocked the chamber. Pack Lead's heavy weapons had breached the outer defenses. Steele gritted his teeth, knowing they were out of options. Leng, he barked into his comm, we need that asset now. In the bowels of a Pack-Lead's prison facility, alarms blared as Agent Kai Leng sliced through security protocols smoothly. The cell door hissed open, revealing a gaunt figure huddled in the corner. Dr. Ketris, Leng said, his voice cold, your expertise is required. The disgraced scientist looked up, a sardonic smile playing across her lips. And here I thought I'd been forgotten. As they fought their way to the extraction point, Leng's team leaving a trail of destruction in their wake, Ketris's eyes glittered with barely concealed excitement. I hope you brought something interesting for me to work on, she said, ducking a stray plasma bolt. Leng's reply was cut short as the facility's reactor core went critical, bathing the sky in nuclear fire. On Earth, Ambassador Voss stood before the Pack Lead's High Council, her face a mask of calm despite the churning in her gut. The massive chamber thrummed with scarcely controlled hostility. Esteemed counselors, she began, her voice steady, I come before you today with an offer of peace. The lead Pack-Leads, a towering figure with iridescent scales, let out a booming laugh. Peace? Your pathetic species dares to speak of peace after defying us? Voss steeled herself, remembering Hill's words. Sow discord, exploit their divisions. Perhaps, she said carefully, there are those among you who see the wisdom in ending this costly conflict. After all, not every Pack-Lead shares the same vision for the future. A ripple of unease passed through the assembled counselors. Voss allowed herself a small smile. The seeds of doubt had been planted. As the negotiations dragged on, a delicate dance of veiled threats and carefully crafted lies, Voss received a priority transmission from Commander Vance. The intel checks out, Vance's voice crackled in her earpiece. There's a splinter faction within the Pack-Lead's ranks. Push harder. Voss straightened, a new fire in her eyes as she faced the increasingly agitated council. The real work was just beginning. Back at the Thalian ruins, Dr. Ketris hunched over an alien console, her fingers flying across its surface. Captain Steele paced nearby, the sounds of Pack-Lead's forces regrouping echoing through the ancient halls. How much longer? He demanded. Ketris didn't look up. Patience, Captain. You can't rush genius. Suddenly, the chamber hummed to life. Holographic displays flickered into existence, revealing schematics of breathtaking complexity. There, Ketris breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. A wormhole generator. With this, we could strike at the very heart of the Pack-Lead's empire. As the strike team began to process the magnitude of their discovery, a proximity alarm blared. The Pack-Leads had breached the inner sanctum. Steele raised his rifle, lips pursed. Secure that data. We're not losing this now. The air crackled with tension as the two forces prepared to clash, the fate of galaxies hanging in the balance. The ancient chamber shuddered as another volley of Pack-Lead's fire impacted the ruin's shields. Captain Steele steadied himself against a pillar, his eyes locked on Dr. Ketris hunched over the alien console. We're running out of time, he growled, checking his rifle's charge. How much longer? Ketris's fingers danced across the holographic interface, her brow furrowed in concentration. Almost there. The air hummed with energy as the force field codes finally yielded to Ketris's relentless assault. Steele allowed himself a moment of triumph before the reality of their situation crashed back down. Zoll, get that data secured. We're bugging out. As the Kryder scientist began transferring the Thalian schematics, Steele's comm crackled to life. Admiral Hill's voice, taut with urgency, filled the chamber. Steele, we've got a problem. Pack-Lead's warships are converging on your position. We're throwing everything we've got at them, but it won't hold for long. Outside the ruins, the void erupted in a dazzling light show as human and Tok-Tok fighters engaged the encroaching Pack-Lead's armada. The Allied pilots executed daring maneuvers, their ships dancing between plasma bolts with inhuman precision. "Damn fine flying," Vorax chittered, his compound eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Your fighter AI is proving its worth, Admiral." Hill nodded grimly. "Let's hope it's enough." Back in the ruins, Ketris's triumphant cry turned to a strangled gasp. Steel whirled, weapon raised, but saw only the scientist staring at the hollow display in horror. "What is it?" he demanded. Ketris swallowed hard. "This isn't a wormhole generator. It's something far worse." Before Steele could press for details, the chamber rocked with a massive impact. Dust and debris rained down as cracks spiderwebbed across the ancient stonework. "Steele!" Hill's voice cut through the chaos. "Pakled's forces have breached the outer defenses. You need to move, now!" The captain didn't hesitate. "You heard the man. Everyone out. Dr. Ketris, bring that data or so. Help me." They sprinted through crumbling corridors, the sounds of battle growing louder with each step. As they neared the extraction point, a towering figure in ornate battle armor stepped into view, flanked by a squad of elite Paklid's troops. "War Master Narhog," Ketris breathed, fear etching her features. Steele raised his rifle, but Narhog was faster. A crackling energy whip lashed out, wrapping around the captain's weapon and yanking it away. "The data!" Narhog rumbled, his scaled hide rippling with bioluminescent patterns. "Give it to me, and perhaps I will grant you a swift death." Steele's mind raced, searching for a way out. Suddenly his comm chirped. Dr. Zoll's voice, barely above a whisper. "Captain, I've rigged the force fields. On your mark." A feral grin spread across Steele's face as he locked eyes with Narhog. "How about option 3? He triggered his comm, bellowing, "Now!" The world exploded into chaos. The very fabric of space-time twisted and tore as the overloaded force fields detonated. Steele felt himself hurled through the air, his body battered by shockwaves of impossible energy. Through the maelstrom, he glimpsed Narhog's massive form sprawled amid the ruins of his flagship. Then darkness claimed him. Steele awoke to the sterile confines of a medbay, his body aching in places he didn't know existed. Admiral Hill stood at his bedside, his face a mask of steadfast perseverance. "Welcome back, Captain. We've got work to do." As Hill brought him up to speed on the aftermath of their high-stakes endeavor, Steele felt the weight of their Pyrrhic victory settle onto his shoulders. The ruins were gone, along with millions of lives, but they had secured the Thelian data. And with it, the key to either saving humanity or damning the entire galaxy. Admiral Hill's face was etched with lines of exhaustion as he studied the holographic display. The Paklid's fleet's inexorable advance glowed an ominous red, creeping ever closer to Earth's remaining strongholds. "We have to make a choice," Hill said, his voice low and gravelly, "and it's not one I take lightly." Captain Steele stood at attention, his body still battered from the ordeal in the Thelian ruins. "Sir?" Hill's eyes met Steele's, filled with a mixture of willpower and regret. "Ambassador Voss has been captured. We have intelligence on her location, but—" He trailed off, gesturing to another display where Dr. Ketris and Dr. Zoll hunched over consoles, frantically working to decipher the alien data. "The weapon schematics we recovered," Hill continued, "they're our last hope against total defeat. I'm ordering your team to extract immediately to Cheyenne Mountain. Protect Ketris and Zoll at all costs." Steele's lips pursed. "And the ambassador?" Hill's shoulders sagged imperceptibly. "We can't risk everything on a rescue attempt. Not now." As Steele's team prepared for extraction, Agent Kai Leng stood before a hand-picked group of operatives. Their faces were hard, eyes glinting with nearly unleashed violence. "Our mission is simple," Leng said, his voice cold as steel. "Infiltrate the Pakled's warship, sabotage key systems, create a window for Voss's extraction." One of the operatives, a scarred veteran named Durand, raised an eyebrow. "Simple," he says. Leng allowed himself a thin smile. "I said simple, not easy." Their stealth shuttle slipped through the chaos of the ongoing battle, a shadow among shadows. Leng's team breached the Pakled ship's outer hull with practiced efficiency, their movements fluid and silent. But as they neared the detention block, alarms blared. Pack leads' voices echoed through the corridors, guttural and angry. "We've been compromised," Lang hissed. "Fall back to extraction point Alpha." They fought their way back to the shuttle, plasma bolts sizzling past their heads. As they escaped, Lang's comm crackled with an incoming transmission. "Mission failure confirmed," came the terse report from Earth Command. "Intel suggests a mole in our ranks. Ambassador Voss's interrogation has been accelerated." Lang's fists clenched as he delivered the news to Admiral Hill. The command center fell silent, the weight of their failure hanging heavy in the air. Commander Vance stepped forward, her eyes blazing with a desperate intensity. "Sir, I have a suggestion. It's risky, but it might be our only chance to save Voss." Hill nodded for her to continue. "We trade General Vorax back to the Packlids," Vance said. "Use him as a bargaining chip for Voss's life." The room erupted in heated debate. Hill raised a hand, silencing the clamor. "Do it," he said, his voice heavy with the burden of command. The exchange was set for a distant asteroid belt. Vorax, bound and seething with awe-inspiring rage, was led to a waiting shuttle. "This is a mistake," the Tak general chittered. "You'll regret this betrayal." Hill watched the shuttle depart, his face an unreadable mask. Hours later, the command center received confirmation. Vorax had been successfully handed over to the Packlids, but before anyone could breathe a sigh of relief, a priority transmission came through. Ambassador Alara Voss's face filled the main view screen. Her eyes were defiant, her posture unbowed despite obvious signs of mistreatment. "People of Earth," she began, her voice steady. "Do not mourn for me. Fight on. Never surrender." The transmission cut off abruptly. The Packlids had carried out their execution. A terrible silence fell over the command center. Then Admiral Hill's voice rang out, cold and filled with purpose. "We will not let her sacrifice be in vain," he declared. "All resources are to be diverted to Project Extinction. It's time we showed the Packlids what humanity is truly capable of." In the depths of Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Ketras and Dr. Zoll redoubled their efforts, the weight of Earth's future pressing down upon them. Captain Steele's team stood guard, weapons at the ready. And far above in the black void of space, the first pieces of humanity's terrible new weapon began to take shape. The command center buzzed with frenetic energy as Admiral Hill's declaration echoed through the room. Captain Steele, still nursing his injuries, felt a chill run down his spine at the mention of Project Extinction. Before he could process the implications, Hill's voice cut through the din. "Steele, I need you and your team to rendezvous with Agent Lang. You're going after that power core." Steele nodded grimly, pushing aside his exhaustion. "Yes, sir. We'll get it done." As Steele's team prepped for deployment, Agent Kai Ling stood before his Krydor strike force. The elite operatives, a mix of human and alien soldiers, checked their gear with practiced efficiency. "Our target is the Packlids shipyards orbiting Kalthora 4, Ling briefed, his voice cold and precise. "Intel confirms the presence of an experimental spearhead cannon power core. We secure it at all costs." A scarred Krydor female, her scales shimmering with bioluminescent patterns, stepped forward. "And if the Packlids decide to make things difficult?" she asked, a predatory gleam in her eye. Lang's lips curled into a mirthless smile. "Then we show them why they should fear the dark, Commander Zavrina." The assault on Kalthora 4's orbital shipyards was a symphony of destruction. Human support craft engaged Packlids' defensive platforms, creating a chaotic smokescreen for Lang's infiltration team. They breached the outer hull using monomolecular cutting tools, the metal parting like butter beneath their blades. Inside, they encountered waves of security drones and shock troops. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air as Lang's team fought their way deeper into the facility. Zavrina moved like liquid death, her nano-enhanced reflexes allowing her to dance between enemy fire. "This way!" Lang hissed, following the guidance of his armor's built-in sensors. They rounded a corner and found themselves face-to-face with their objective, and a nasty surprise. The power core pulsed with otherworldly energy, but thick conduits snaked from its housing to a nearby docking bay. Through the reinforced viewport, they could see a massive Packlids capital ship, its weapon systems glowing with excess power. "They're siphoning the core's energy," Zavrina growled. "We need to—" Her words were cut short as alarms blared throughout the facility. A guttural pack lead's voice boomed over the intercom, the translation software in their helmets struggling to keep up. "Intruders detected. Vent the core. Destroy it all." Leng's mind raced, assessing their rapidly dwindling options. The support craft outside wouldn't survive if the core was vaporized. Neither would they. "New plan," he barked. "We're going to give the pack leads more power than they can handle." Understanding dawned in Zavrina's eyes. "You're insane," she said, but her hands were already moving to the nearby control panel. With a series of precise commands, they rerouted the siphoned energy. The pack lid's capital ship's weapons systems, overloaded in a spectacular fashion, erupting in a chain reaction that tore the vessel apart. The resulting explosion rocked the entire shipyard. Structural supports groaned and buckled as the facility began to break apart. "Move!" Leng shouted, grabbing the now dormant power core. They sprinted through collapsing corridors, the sound of tearing metal and escaping atmosphere growing louder with each step. As they reached the outer hull, Leng realized with grim certainty that their infiltration craft had been destroyed in the chaos. The shipyard was falling into Kal Thorothrio's turbulent atmosphere, and their window of escape was rapidly closing. "We jump," Zavrina declared, her eyes fixed on the distant specks of human extraction ships. It was suicide, but it was their only chance. Leng nodded, clutching the power core to his chest as they leapt into the void. The next few moments were a blur of vertigo and terror. Leng felt the scorching heat of atmospheric entry, saw the flash of maneuvering thrusters as extraction ships raced to intercept them, then mercifully the solid impact of a rescue net. As the adrenaline faded, Leng took stock of their losses. Over half the strike team was gone, including Zavrina and her Lieutenant Iraxis. But they had succeeded. The power core was secure. Back on Earth, in the depths of Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Ketris and Dr. Zoll worked feverishly to integrate the Thelian wormhole technology into the extinction prototype. Captain Steele's team stood guard, their faces etched with the strain of constant vigilance. Commander Vance burst into the lab, her expression grim. "We have a problem," she announced, her voice tight with barely suppressed fury. "Someone's been leaking our tech to the pack-leads." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Their last hope, their doomsday weapon, was now in the hands of the enemy. Admiral Hill's voice crackled over the comm system, cold and resolute. "Initiate Operation Cana. Find the mole, by any means necessary." As the hunt for traitors began, Earth's defenders raced against time. The extinction dreadnought neared completion, but now it was a double-edged sword. Their ultimate weapon had become the key to humanity's salvation, or its final, crushing defeat. The command center buzzed with frantic activity as Admiral Hill's gaze locked onto the main view screen. The Extinction-class dreadnought loomed large, its sleek lines belying the apocalyptic power contained within. "All systems go, Admiral," reported Commander Vance, her voice taut with tension. "Wormhole drive is spooled up and ready." Hill's lips pursed. "Initiate the jump." The massive vessel shuddered, reality itself seeming to bend around it as the experimental Thelian technology tore open a hole in space-time. In a flash of impossible light, the extinction vanished. Aboard the dreadnought, Captain Steele gripped the command chair as alarms blared. The ship bucked and groaned, threatening to tear itself apart. "Wormhole drive failing," shouted the helmsman. "We're off course." Dr. Zoll's fingers danced across her console, eyes wide with panic. "The quantum slipstream is destabilizing. We're going to—" Her words were cut off as the ship lurched violently. For a moment it felt as if they were everywhere and nowhere at once, reality itself twisting around them. Then with a final, bone-jarring jolt, they emerged into normal space. Through the view screen, an unfamiliar world hung before them, surrounded by the unmistakable silhouettes of Pack-Lead's warships. "By some miracle, we've reached the Pack-Lead's throne world," Steele breathed, "but we're dead in the water." Dr. Zoll's voice cut through the chaos. "Captain, I have an idea. It's insane, but it might be our only chance. As she outlined her desperate plan, Steele felt a chill run down his spine. It was beyond risky, but they were out of options. "Do it," he ordered. The next few minutes were a blur of frantic activity. Engineering teams rerouted power, pushing the ship's systems far beyond their design limits. The spearhead cannon's singularity field swelled dangerously, contained only by the straining shields. "Packled's vessels approaching," warned the tactical officer. "They'll be in weapons range in 30 seconds. Steele's hands tightened on the armrest. "Zol, we're out of time." The scientist nodded grimly. "Initiating stellar bombardment. Now." A blinding torrent of energy erupted from the extinction, lancing towards the Packled's throne world. The approaching enemy ships were caught in the maelstrom, vaporized in an instant. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the beam struck home. Continents cracked, oceans boiled away, and the very atmosphere was stripped from the planet. "My God," someone whispered. Alarms screamed as the ship's systems began to fail. Steele barked orders, fighting to keep the extinction from flying apart as they initiated an emergency hyperjump. They emerged near Earth, the familiar blue-green orb a welcome sight after their harrowing ordeal. For a moment, hope surged through the crew. They had struck a crippling blow against the Packleds. Perhaps this would be enough to end the war. But as intercepted transmissions began flooding in, that hope turned to ash. They had not broken the Packleds. They had only enraged them. The true Packled's prime archon, a nightmarish fusion of flesh and machine, was coming, and it would not rest until humanity was exterminated. As the remnants of Earth's defense fleet scrambled to meet this new threat, Steele knew that the real battle was only just beginning. The Extinction-class dreadnought limped back to Earth, its hull scarred and systems barely functioning. Captain Steele's face was grim as he surveyed the devastation through the viewscreen. Continents lay shattered, oceans boiled, and the very atmosphere seemed to writhe with unnatural energy. "My God," he whispered, echoing the sentiment that had become all too familiar. Admiral Hill's voice crackled over the comm, strained and hollow. "Report to command immediately, Captain. We have much to discuss." The journey to what remained of Cheyenne Mountain was a nightmare of twisted metal and radioactive debris. Steele's team picked their way through the ruins, environmental suits the only barrier between them and certain death. Inside the command center, Admiral Hill stood before a bank of flickering screens. His once pristine uniform was tattered, and his eyes held the haunted look of a man who had stared into the abyss. "We won," Hill said, his voice devoid of triumph. "But at what cost?" The screens displayed a brutal tally, cities reduced to ash, billions dead, the very geography of Earth reshaped by forces beyond human comprehension. "Sir," Steele began, but Hill cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Save it, Captain. We all bear the weight of this victory." He spat the last word like poison. "But our work isn't done. Dr. Zoll, report." The scientist's hologram flickered to life, her face etched with exhaustion and something deeper, a primal fear that sent chills down Steele's spine. "We've decrypted the final Thelian data caches," Zoll said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The pack leads, they were just the beginning." As Zoll outlined her findings, the color drained from Hill's face. The true nature of the weapon they had unleashed, the cosmic beacon they had lit, it was beyond comprehension. "We've invited something worse," Hill murmured. "Something that makes the pack leads look like children playing at war." Steele's mind reeled. How could they possibly face another threat after what they'd endured? Hill's next words shattered any remaining illusions. "Initiate Operation Kaina, full scope." Steele's blood ran cold. He knew what that meant, the systematic elimination of everyone involved in Project Extinction, including himself. "Sir," he began, but Hill's eyes met his with a mixture of sorrow and iron dedication. "It has to be done, Captain, for the sake of what's left of humanity." As alarms began to blare and security teams mobilized, Steele made a split-second decision. He bolted from the command center, his team close behind. They had to warn Dr. Ketras, had to preserve some fragment of the knowledge that might yet save them all. The race against time had begun anew, with the fate of a shattered Earth hanging in the balance.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.